Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So I just watched Mickey 17. Let's talk about it. So Mickey 17 is directed by Bong Joon-Ho, who famously, of course, directed the Academy Award-winning film Parasite. So Mickey 17 is centered on the titular character portrayed by Robert Pattinson, and Mickey himself is just a fella who's down on his luck. You know, he doesn't have much going for him. He doesn't even have any family or real friends to rely on, and down on earth, he doesn't really have much of a life. Now, he did try to make something of himself by investing a huge ton of borrowed money on this failed investment, something about macaron, I can't remember. I can't remember what that investment was, but he was conned by his so-called bestie to do so, and it ended up going poorly. And so now you have this big nefarious loan shark who he borrowed the money from coming after him, and he and his friend, portrayed by Yeun, decide the only way to get away from this is to end up in space, in a spaceship that's on a voyage to Niflheim, a new planet that this failed politician is looking to colonize. So Mickey and his not so best buddy Timo sign up to be included as part of the voyage. Timo already has a pretty good job lined up for himself on the space program, but poor Mickey has no prospects, no qualifications, and nothing really attractive about him as an employee. And so he's forced to be one of the lowest of the lowest rungs in the entire voyage, and that is an expendable. An expendable is essentially a test subject, like it's a lab rat that's going to be tested on over and over again. It has to endure all of these horrific, life-threatening experimentations as they try to figure out how to navigate life on Niflheim. And the only reason why any of this is possible is because some scientists developed this human printing technology where you can create clones or replicas of the same person time and time and time again. And poor Mickey is the test subject that they're going to be using for each of these experiments. Now, he didn't realize this at first because he didn't read the small print, but that's exactly what ends up happening to him. And so Mickey 17, the title of the film, connotes the number of times that he has died and been brought back to life through this printing machine. Now, the film itself jumps back and forth in different time frames to show the story of Mickey and how he came to be. But at the beginning of the film, we land ourselves in the middle of a frozen Niflheim where Mickey is terrified at the monsters coming towards him. He thinks they're going to kill him, but in actuality, they have some different plans, and they end up saving him from his near-death experience in a cave. He ends up back in the spaceship, and instead of being empathetic towards these monstrous aliens that are actually the natives of Niflheim, all of the people in the voyage, including its leader, Mark Ruffalo, the failed politician, see them as threats and something to destroy. And it's up to Mickey and his friends and allies, including another Mickey, to stop this madness and the decimation of the entire native population. So that's the essence of the story of Mickey 17. And I recognize that this film was very highly anticipated, as I said, because Bong Joon-Ho is such a beloved and acclaimed director, and because his previous project literally won Best Picture and it's one of the very best films to come out of the 2010s. So yeah, like, people were excited to see this new project. But I have to say, after having seen it, you know, you should still be excited. You should still be excited, but not necessarily because you're expecting a masterpiece with like the likes of Parasite. In fact, I would go as far as to say that Mickey 17 is more reminiscent of Bong Joon-Ho's previous works like Snowpiercer or even Okja. Yes, this film definitely resembles Okja more than any of the other films in Bong Joon-Ho's filmography that I have seen. seen anyways. So if you're going into this thinking it's going to be a brand new Parasite, then I would just I would just remove that from your mind, because that's not really what this film is giving. It's giving more Okja. Now, to start off with the positives, I would say the biggest positive of this film is Robert Pattinson's performance. His portrayal of Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 and all the other Mickeys that appear in this film is really, really phenomenal. Actors portraying different iterations of the same character has been pretty big in the 2020s so far, and so it's not surprising that we have yet another film, especially from a prestigious director, kind of in line with this trend. But Robert Pattinson absolutely rises to the occasion. You can see him having a ball of a time portraying all of the different versions of Mickey, but I particularly like the different characteristics that are given to Mickey 17 versus Mickey 18, because Mickey 18 feels very distinctly different. Mickey 17 is so adorable. He's so cute and adorable, and I just want the best for him, and everyone needs to stop hurting my poor boy. Oh, I love Mickey 17. He's just so cute and dumb and naive and slow. He's not the brightest tool in the box, but he's got a heart of gold, and I just want the best for him. Okay, he's so adorable. I love him. But then you have Mickey 18, and Mickey 18 is gruff. He is angry. He is aggressive and violent. He's a drug addict as well. Let's not forget that part. And he's just a complicated character. So having these two versions of Mickey battling it out at the same time is something brilliant to witness. And Robert Pattinson really just has a ball with these scenes and makes it so investing to watch. And this is actually the only occasion where we get to see more than one Mickey on screen, because as per the protocol, you're not supposed to have multiples. Oh, multiples are a big deal. You're not supposed to have them. You're supposed to be printing these guys out one by one. But because of Mickey 17's adventures in Niflheim, where he was doomed to die, they ended up printing out another Mickey, not realizing that Mickey 17 was rushing on home after having escaped near death. So they end up with multiples, and this gives us a prime opportunity to see Robert Pattinson acting against himself. And honestly, that double act will never get old to me. Ever since I saw it with Nina Dobrev in The Vampire Diaries, I have always loved that double act shtick, and I think they've only gotten better at executing it in films and TV shows, and this is just a prime example of that. And in terms of positives, I would extend that out to the whole cast, because I think this cast was really, really strong. In particular, we have Naomi Ackie portraying Nasha, and she's this badass police officer slash security officer. I actually don't know what she does as her day job, because most of the time she's just getting high and sleeping with Mickeys, plural, okay? But she's a badass on the ship that Mickey looks up to with puppy dog eyes. It's just so cute, okay? And she does take care of him, to be fair. She takes care of her boy, okay? Even if there's more than one of him. But at the end, she has to really step up and be a proper ally to Mickey, kind of take him seriously in what he's saying, particularly after his experiences in Niflheim. And so she rises up to that occasion and becomes a true leader of the resistance, which is really cool to see. And then we also have Mark Ruffalo portraying Kenneth Marshall, who's the failed politician slash cult leader who's in charge of this entire expedition, and he is looking to colonize Niflheim for reasons. We'll talk about that in a second. But in terms of his persona, Mark Ruffalo absolutely hit the nail on the head with his characterization. You have this unfortunately familiar characterization of a charismatic populist right-wing leader who's leading people to God knows what. He's leading people to God knows where. The blind leading the blind, honestly. But this guy is extremely hilarious. He's so bizarre. He has the veneers that Mark Ruffalo has to speak through. He has all of these mannerisms that are so quirky and just unlikable. He's very slick and extremely narcissistic, and he thinks he's so much more, charismatic and lovable than he actually is. He just wants to to be loved. He's desperate for everyone's attention, that he's a really small man who's constantly seeking validation, like all of that. All of these elements of this character is something that we have seen before, but is very well executed by Mark Ruffalo. And he is brilliantly accompanied by Toni Collette, who portrays his wife Yifa, who's a character in her own right. Who's literally a character in her own right. Her main raison d'etre, you know, her point of existence is soup. Like she's trying to make all of these dishes and soups out of exotic substances that they find in space because they have limited resources in the spaceship. And so that's literally all that she's concerned with. Like she doesn't care. She's a narcissist herself, and she has no empathy for others. Like she's literally sociopathic. And as long as she gets the ingredients to her soup and she gets to be the prize and on Marshall's arm, she doesn't give a shit about anything else. And to round out this cast, you have Steven Yeun, who, as I said, portrays Mickey's backstabbing bestie. And he's not in this film as much as I thought he would be, as much as I would have liked him to be, but he's still great in his reasonably small role, where he just betrays his friends time and time again. Oh, he sucks. He's the worst, because Mickey actually believes him to be a friend, and it takes him way too long to realize that he's not one. So in the meantime, you just kind of had to sit there and be like, Mickey, look at the fool that brought you to this horrible situation. This is literally all his fault, and you can't even see it, and you're still calling him a friend. Mickey, wake up. Or So all in all, we have a great cast, and they're reading off of a really good script. I wouldn't say it's the strongest of Bong Joon-Ho's scripts. We'll talk about that in the negatives, but I do like the broad themes that are explored here. You have themes of colonialism and also populist politics and cult leaders. You also have themes of like classism as well. The very fact that Mickey is there is because he's broke and has no prospects, and that's led him to do this atrocious thing of donating his body to science in the worst way imaginable. So you have all of this social commentary that can be found in this film, and I think that is definitely a staple in Bong Joon-Ho's work. It's something that we have come to expect from him, and he delivers it each and every time, but to varying degrees of success. Like I said, I wouldn't say that that's the strongest example of such a script, but the message was made very, very clear, and in a very entertaining way, as there are layers of dark comedy that kind of coat the entire film to make it really funny at times, and a really great entertaining watch throughout. But now that we've dived into some of the positives, let's get into the negatives and the reason why this isn't quite up to par with Parasite. I just think that this is a little bit of a watered down Bong Joon-Ho production. Usually when we see his work, it's, you know, very distinctly him, and it hits hard each and every time. We saw this with Snowpiercer, with Parasite, of course, and with Okja, and this film has elements of all of that, mostly like Snowpiercer and Okja, but in a very like diluted way, where it doesn't feel like he went full throttle on this one. Whether it be through aesthetics, I mean the locations like the spaceship and the planet itself don't really have any like unique designs or qualities to them that make it feel distinctly Bong Joon-Ho and Mickey 17 related. They're kind of just generic. It's the kind of thing that you would see in a less than great Star Wars Disney Plus show or a generic sci-fi series on Netflix. There's very few distinct qualities to the production design that make it feel distinctly Bong Joon-Ho, and that's something that can't be said for Snowpiercer or of course Okja, which is very colorful, very bright and kitschy, and it has a very distinct feel to it. But an even bigger issue with the script is its lack of focus and its lack of precision in its messaging. Yes, it does have clear messaging about social issues in a very general sense. The difference between Mickey 17 and Bong Joon-Ho's previous projects is that the previous projects had a set of clearly defined bullet points that it wanted to hit when it came to its social commentary, whether it be about classism or about animal cruelty. Those points were very, very clear, and the film was focused on those specific points. Whereas here you have a whole wide range of different social commentary that the film wants to include, and it does so in a very surface level, incomplete way that does a disservice to most of these topics. So you have the topic of classism, kind of touched on by the fact that Mickey is of a lower class, and that's what leads to him being in the situation in the first place, on the run from the loan shark. But there's no through line that carries us home when it comes to that commentary. And it's the same with animal cruelty as well. That's a theme that kind of pops up in the second half of the film as we explore the relations between the humans and the native creatures slash monsters as aliens, although they're not the aliens, okay, the humans are, on the planet. And you know, you have Yifa trying to make soup out of their tails, and that's obviously a commentary on animal cruelty and using animals for food products, something that Bong Joon-Ho has touched on in Okja. But Okja was like mostly about that, and it explored that topic very extensively with a lot of depth and a lot of heart and commitment. Whereas here, even though the message is clear, there isn't that commitment and there isn't that more nuanced take on the topic. And then another example is the populist politician slash cult leader angle, which we explore through Mark Ruffalo's character. And the problem with that one is that we don't know what his ideology really is. Like, there's no real attempt to define his ideology, what he stands for, and why we should be against him. We don't really know what he's trying to achieve with this expedition, other than trying to colonize Niflheim. And obviously anti-colonialism is definitely a theme here, but like, what are his set of beliefs? Like, what is everyone backing him for? And they even make a point to show that the majority of the people on this expedition are his followers, like within this cult, but we don't really know the dogma of the cult. And throughout the film, we don't really get a sense that people worship him, like worship the ground that he walks on, the way that it's suggested at the beginning of the film. Like, we just don't see that, because most people just kind of side-eye him and like, oh, guess we're stuck with this guy, and we have been for the last 4 years. Like, no one really makes a big deal about him or treats him like a messiah figure the way that we usually see for cult leaders. So that angle was really bizarrely weak and strange, and felt a little bit misplaced, because we just didn't see evidence of what they were telling us, which was that he's supposed to be this deified, highly respected cult leader that everyone worships. Like, we barely got any evidence of that at all. And again, we don't really get a sense of his ideology regardless. I mean, that's kept, I guess, intentionally vague, but all we hear him say is stuff about purity and trying to, you know, create Niflheim as a colony of pure humans. But like, aren't there like 8 billion humans on Earth? Like, pure have humans started to mate with animals? Like, I don't I don't understand why he keeps yapping on about pure humans. Maybe I missed something. Let me know down in the comments if I did. But there are a whole bunch of pure humans on Earth. That doesn't really give me a proper reason for why he wants to colonize Niflheim. Why not just take over some private island on the planet? Another negative is that the story itself never really builds up to anything like big or substantial. At least not to me. I just felt like the story was a little bit aimless, and like when we got to the end and we had the final battle, I guess, with the native worms, like with those creatures that look like enlarged nits. If you've ever seen close-ups of what nits look like on your head, yeah, it's kind of giving that. It's kind of giving mites that live on your face. This whole thing leads up to a battle between them, and that's okay. But it just feels like the story was rearing up for something a bit more substantial, and in the end it kind of fell a little bit flat. And it certainly didn't help that I was starting to feel every single minute of that runtime by the time that we got to the third act. So in reality, the best part of Mickey 17 is the titular character himself. I loved, you know, hearing about his story, seeing all of the different iterations of the character, and seeing him interact with Mickey 18 was a joy. And you could see that Robert Pattinson was really living it up with this role. Overall, I still had a great time watching the film, but by the end I couldn't help but think, what was the point in that? And so with all of that being said, guys, I'm going to be giving Mickey 17 a 7 out of 10. So that's it from me. Now that I told you guys my thoughts on Mickey 17, it's time for you guys to let me know what you thought of this film down in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe to catch you videos coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.